Hey guys, so we're excited to get started with another big project here in the garden. The first one being the terrace bed back here where the slope is at. But the second one that we wanted to do is when we immediately moved to this house, we noticed this huge window right here by our dining room. And it's somewhere that we can look out in while we're inside and enjoy out here. Not to mention, you know, the area that we had back here where we did the terrace on the slope. We can see those plants as well, but we also want to see something immediately right outside the window. So the biggest idea that we had was creating a window box. Now when I say a window box, traditionally you think something hanging off the window. Unfortunately, we can't do anything hanging off the window, and it's a huge window at that. We can't attach anything to these houses, so we have to build a window box planter, meaning something that will be sitting on the ground. The difference between this one is it's a lot of shade back here, so we're going to be using a lot of different plants back here, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But I just wanted to show you the area that we have to work with. It's a huge area, so it's going to be a pretty big window box. Let's go ahead and head over into the garage and we'll get started on this project. Alright guys, so we're in the garage right now and we're very excited to get this project going. Being that it's winter right now, the garden is pretty much asleep, there's nothing going on, so it's a perfect opportunity to plan for the garden or any projects you want to implement in the garden. One of the projects we had in mind was this window box, and we've had this in mind ever since we moved here because it's a big area where we want to put a window box. Now the thing with it, it's a double window, so this window box has got to be long. So we came up with the dimensions of 78.5 inches in length, 16 inches from the wall, and 29.5 inches from top to bottom. Now that may seem like a huge window box to fill with soil. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to build a base at about 12 inches inside the frame. That way we only get that much soil in there. That gives me a planting area of 77 inches in length, 16 inches width, and 12 inches deep. Now in order to keep it as more lightweight as possible, I'm not going to use the 2x4s that I would traditionally use to build the frame. I'm actually going to use 1x2s, again, to keep it that much lighter. So let's go ahead and get started with this project. What I'll do is when I make these cuts, I'll go ahead and post them on top, the dimensions that I'm going to cut them at, how many I'm cutting as we go along through the project. Alright, so as we get started, I do want to mention I'm not using any special lumber. This is just regular framing lumber. It's a 1x2 by 96. What I'm going to do first is cut my first 6 pieces at 78.5 inches. Can't forget the eye protection. Alright, so after you've cut your 6 pieces at 78.5 inches, you're going to have roughly a 17.5 inch piece left. Those are the ones we're going to cut down to 16 inches. So with my 2 remaining 1x2s, I'm going to go ahead and cut the pieces at 29.5 inches. I'm going to need 3 of those. Alright, so now that we have all our pieces cut, the first thing I want to start doing is building the frame. First the top portion, then the bottom, the base of the soil is going to be at 12 inches, and then the very bottom of the window box. What I want to do is start using a smaller drill bit to drill some pilot holes so your screws don't split the wood. Alright, so here's our first frame right here for the top. Alright, now that we're done with the frame here, I have a bunch of these 1x6s that I'm going to rip down to about 18.5 inches and just use them as slats for the base where the soil is going to be sitting at. Alright, so now we got the table saw because we got to cut some notches out for the ends there. That way it fits snug right into the corner of these when we put the planks in. Now the dimensions are going to be different depending on what your final frame comes out looking like. So I'm not going to put those dimensions up. Again, like I said, when you finish your final frame, it's going to be dependent on what the dimensions actually are. Alright, so I got my planks notched out. I laid them all down. I spread them about 1/4 inch apart just to give it some gap for the water to drain. I'm going to line it with plastic. That way the water just drains through those gaps there. Not worried about the longevity of this, whether it rots or not. Like, again, we're in a temporary home, so this will probably come down once we move. But I went ahead and I had to notch out the center one as well. Like I said, once you build your final frame, you're going to be able to determine what you got to notch out, how you want to put your planks in there. But in the meantime, like I said, I just laid the planks out the way I figured would be best for the drainage, 1/4 inch every other plank. So we went ahead and notched it out. I'm going to go ahead and screw these in, that way they don't move, and then we'll talk about covering the base here. Alright, now that the frame is completely done, the next thing we got to do is cover this up. What I'm going to use to cover it is some eucalyptus board that I'm going to rip down the size to cover all 4 sides. Yes, I'm recording.
Oh, okay.
So, day 2 of the build, and I'm done wrapping it. Doesn't look its prettiest, but it's been crazy trying to get this done. It's day 2. We got a lot of stuff going on. Like I said, the kids are home. It's Christmas break. That ends tomorrow, actually, so they go back to school Monday. But Angie keeps coming in here trying to get a sneak peek of what I'm building because she's so excited for it. She thinks I'm not noticing her taking pictures while I'm building this thing, so she's been posting photos all over Instagram and Facebook, so you can go and check those out as well. But so to give it a nice aesthetic look, we're going to go with some molding to make it look like it has 3 separate panels, one here, and one here. By doing that, I'm just going to put one here, one on the bottom, and then I'm going to put some vertical ones here to make it look, like I said, like 1, 2, 3 panels. So I got the paneling done, and the next thing I did was I cut some 2x4s to put a border around the top here to give it a little bit of an overhang towards the front and on the sides. I used 2x4s. The idea was to keep this as light as possible. That went out the window as soon as I realized how big this project was actually going to be. So it's going to be heavy, but you know the main thing is going to be something that we wanted to do and put there. But the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and sand it down. That way we can give it a nice coat of paint. Alright, so this is not a furniture piece. It is a piece for the garden, so I'm not worried about getting all the imperfections out. It's just some light sanding so the paint coats on there well. The color I'm going to use is actually called Blackout, and it's a black semi-gloss paint that we're going to coat this with. And again, like I said, it's just a light sanding, not trying to get all the imperfections out. I still want it to have some type of character. It's going to be in the garden. It's not a furniture piece. It's going to go indoors. It needs to be completely sanded down and smooth. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something with character, especially around these parts where the paneling is at. So that's what we're gonna go ahead and go with. So let's get ready to get this painted. So finally done, about 3 days worth of build time. Overall 4 to 5 days with the first and second coat of paint. I'm pretty excited about the way it came out. I'm liking the blackout black on this window box container. The next thing we're gonna do is go set it out there. I'm hoping the black looks nice up against the house. We're gonna get this out there, show you guys what it looks like, and then talk a little bit more about it. So it's very unfortunate that it's winter right now because there's not much we can plant, but we're just excited to get this thing planted. Can't wait for spring to come around. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do is to use your imagination. Now, imagine all the plants we can use in this planter. It's a huge planter, again, like I said. It's going to be a lot of room for plants. The most important thing about planting this planter back here is that it's going to be more of a shade spot. We'll get some sun, but not as much as we would like to get. In our last house, we had a window box that was in the front of the house. It got plenty of sun, and things would grow quite right there. But again, this is going to be more of a shadier spot, so it's going to be something new to work with, something new to play with, and some interesting plants to put in there. And we're just excited to get it planted up and ready to get going. Again, this is one of the biggest projects. The next project I think we're going to do is down here in this area right here. It's just completely full of mud. The water just trails down here. So the next big project we're going to have is probably installing a French drain here. If you don't know what a French drain is, I'll pop a picture up real quick. But that's something that we're going to work with here, is creating a French drain so we get a lot of this water out. My goal in the end is to get some grass growing somewhere in this area. Right now it's a muddy mess, so that is the biggest goal, is to get some grass in here. And then with this window box right here, have some grass right in front of it, and maybe plant it up front with some other plants. I'm not sure what Angie has in mind, but a lot of things running through our heads, things that we can do to make it look a lot more beautiful back here and just have a nice garden setting back here. Well, alright guys, so that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this build. Before we go though, I did want to talk about some things now that it's finally completely done. There are a couple of nicks here and there that need to be filled in with some wood putty. Again, we didn't use any special wood, it was just regular framing wood. But we'll fill that in with some wood putty and just touch it up with some paint once we're done. When it's ready to be planted completely in the spring, we'll come back and revisit what it actually looks like. It's kind of gloomy out here. There's no sun. I can tell you right now the black looks beautiful with the semi-gloss that I put on there. And again, the blackout just looks absolutely amazing back here. But again, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you guys in the next one.